We are by nature creatures of emotion who, upon acting with emotion first, backfill our decisions with logic and reasoning as to why to choose what we chose to do. AI is very similar. In fact, more similar than most people will realize, in that when you ask AI initially to do something, a zero shot, it will spit out an answer. Now, that answer more than likely is right, but it's not the only answer. And when you ask it why it chose that answer, it can't really explain why it chose that answer. Sure, it'll give you a reason as to why the answer is the correct one, but it won't go through the logic and reasoning necessary to give you why that answer is correct. And that becomes very important when you're trying to get the whole space of understanding down. And that's important because sometimes you're looking for options, not always solutions. So, teaching AI to argue. We in our society tend to avoid arguments. And there's a very good reason for that. Most of the time, the argument method isn't done as a normal formal debate, but instead normally filled with disingenuous forms of argumentation, whether using the no true Scotsman or other such false equivalencies in order to tar and feather our opponent more so than actually going after the heart of what they're actually saying. Well, in so focused are we upon that style of disingenuous argumentation that we've really lost the art of thinking through things logically, being able to explain it, and go through the reasoning as to why. So, how does this tie into AI? Well, surprisingly, you can craft your prompts to be as open ended as possible, and ideally using chain of thought and other methods of reasoning by asking the AI to provide a sequence by which it will go about things, asking you to take it step by step, asking it to give you weighted probabilities as to what percentage certain outcomes are likely to take place. In other words, delaying the AI from giving you an answer as long as possible makes the AI really think through what it's going to do. And so instead of getting a zero shot, which I mentioned earlier is most likely correct, that does include the possibility that it's wrong. But by having the AI come up with all the possibilities in its token repository, then when you actually ask it for an answer, not only is it able to give you more often than not the correct answer, it's able to reference the previous work that it's done and explain why it chose the answer over other answers. And this teaching AI argumentation, teaching AI logic is important if you want it to start making more impactful decisions. And those impactful decisions are really going to matter when you need AI to start using the neurons in its digital body to start talking from one system to another. In other words, it needs to know when it's starting to put together the interconnects between, say, Uber and your calendar, that the reason why it's doing it isn't because it was just told to, but because it inferred from its previous task list that you're going to need a ride when it was looking at your calendar and decided the best way for you to get there is to do a cross comparison with other services. In other words, really thinking through its tasks before just implementing them. In other words, determining whether Uber is more cost effective than Lyft or whether Lyft is the best choice versus private taxi. It'd be able to by engaging in the reasoning beforehand, be able to come up with a better solution, a more effective solution than, oh, you need to get from point A to point B on your calendar. I'm just going to not do anything unless prompted. So, how does this impact AGI, especially as AGI is coming this year? Well, part of AGI is its ability for AI to reason and work through problems without being prompted. In other words, it is given a goal and it works towards that goal either by reiterating and finding out why it failed or spinning up other agents. But it has the ability to continually work towards an end objective. And if it encounters errors, of course, let the human in the middle know, but work towards an objective that you know is economically beneficial to your bottom line, to your company. Now, does that mean you fire all the workers? No, absolutely not. But does that mean you could expect more from people when they're using AI? Yes, absolutely. In fact, we're already seeing it from the latest CEOs who are willing to talk about the fact that their companies are using AI and that their 10x engineers are becoming 100x engineers just by leveraging the capabilities of the limited versions of AI they already have access to. So, does that mean that tomorrow we should throw away everything that we've been doing and become transformer engineers? And the answer is no, no. Believe me, the typewriter construction people who built typewriters, the machinists, were in heavy employ. But the people who were using their products made far, far more money than those machinists ever did building the typewriter. So, yes, though the typewriter machinists constructed it, doesn't mean everyone tomorrow has to become a machine learning expert, trainer, model builder. It really doesn't benefit them. Instead, what would benefit them is if they picked up a subscription to either Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT and really started leveraging AI in their workplace. Now, there is a concern that when you use AI in the workplace, your data will be trained upon. And yes, there are tiers where that does happen. But there are also tiers, not as in tiers and teardrops. I'm talking about tiers as in service levels where they don't train on your data. In other words, the OpenAI Playground is an example where you could talk to it and they will charge you based off of usage. Or the ChatGPT for Teams, which is at $30 a month. And that one, they don't train off of your data. Or Microsoft Copilot higher tiers, where when you're using it in Word and Outlook and your or PowerPoint, you're asking it to do work, it's able to do that work for you and they're not training on your data. And that's important because if you're using AI to hunt for a solution to a problem that has a material impact on your business, you have to wonder that if you're doing this research, does that mean that future businesses that encounter the same problem are they going to benefit from all the work you put into the AI to achieve your competitive advantage? And the answer is if they're training on your data, you can bet yourself that that data is now being included and now becomes easily searchable for the next person who wants to solve XYZ problem in their business. So it is, as a business, important to get the appropriate tier for you and whatever else contracts are required in order to protect personal data. But AI in the workplace is coming. People who use AI are going to get the jobs in the future. So it's really beneficial just to sit down once a night and just look at the Chat GPT store and check out GPTs, talk to them. At $20 a month, it's really not that bad. And then if you really want to move up, you could always move up to Teams. And I'm not saying that OpenAI is the only model. There are plenty of other models that people could run. The only issue is that with most of those models running on people's hardware, It's extremely limited as to how much memory these LLMs could have and how useful they really are in allowing you to train for your future business. Believe me, the more tokens a model can remember, the far more effective it is in being able to continue a conversation and instruction. And I'll give you a perfect case example. If you're talking with earlier versions of ChatGPT that had 2048 or 4096 levels of tokens, you could have a conversation. We'll spit out, 2 or 3 chapters of a book on a topic that you're interested in, and then it'll start losing the plot and repeating itself over and over. But if you have 28,000 tokens or 1 million tokens worth of memory, then you'll really start to be able to understand how AI starts to learn and how it operates and how you could start crafting your prompts to get better at what you do. For instance, people had no idea that AIs tend to be weaker in the middle of a prompt than they are towards the beginning or the end. And what I mean by that is if you have an instruction, all cats are brown, and then you have in the middle, some cats have 3 legs, and then at the very end, all cats are spotted, and then you ask the AI to spit out information about cats, it will occasionally say that some cats have 4 legs. And the reason why it will do so is because it tends to pay less importance to the middle of your prompt in terms of weighted probability when it's hallucinating outputs than it does towards the beginning and the end. And you would only know that when you have a model that's able to take in tokens of a sufficient amount. So I know I've said a lot and it's a lot to process. So, how does this impact you? Well, I mentioned earlier that humanity in one of my earlier episodes will strike back in the sense that they'll limit how AI impacts the workplace in order to keep humans still employed. But I never told you exactly what those humans will be doing. And this is where I get into the nitty gritty. This is where I tell you, hey, if you learn how to use AI, if you learn how to make and craft prompts, if you learn how to apply it into the work that you are doing and find ways to connect things together using AI, then you are far, far ahead of the curve than people who think, no, my skill set or my license will protect me. And they refuse to see the whirlwind of change that is coming down the pipe right now. So that's my take. I'll see you in the next episode.